The last legendary raid boss of 2025 is going to be Zekrom, and in this video I'm going to be giving you a comprehensive guide on how you can take it down. Hey, how's it going everyone? Jinsula here with a brand new Pokemon Go video. I hope your day is going really well, and let's get right into it. So the legendary Pokemon Zekrom is once again in raid battles, and this is actually going to be the last legendary raid boss of 2025. Now the key thing here is that with Zekrom, it is a very powerful legendary Pokemon in its own right, but it is often considered a very needed Pokemon because it is used for a fusion, specifically with Black Kyurem, and Black Kyurem is one of the best Pokemon in the game, and it's going to be future proof as well. So for that reason, it is important that you collect at least a couple of Zekrom, because if you were to get yourself a really good Kyurem, you will want to fuse it with a Zekrom so that you can get yourself Black Kyurem. Now for a lot of players, they might already have Black Kyurem, considering that there has been plenty of opportunities to get this fusion form, but we are going to be getting one more in 2026 through a fusion raid day, which is actually going to be happening in a couple of weeks. And I do think that for that event, you will be able to get some Kyurem fusion energy, and if you were to have a couple of Zekrom beforehand, then that's actually going to be beneficial for you. But also, like I said, Zekrom is a very powerful electric type Pokemon, so if you were to get yourself a 100% IV of Zekrom, or possibly even a Shundo, it'll definitely be worth powering up. So farming up candies right now could be a really beneficial thing. So let's go over all of the details for how you could take down Zekrom. It's a very straightforward raid boss, but it does have some very specific counters. And then afterwards, let me share some thoughts that I really do think you need to pay attention to. Zekrom is a duo dragon and electric type legendary Pokemon. This gives it certain weaknesses, specifically dragon, fairy, ground, and ice type attacks, which you will definitely want to utilize against this raid boss, but one in particular which we'll get into later. Now when it comes to its resistances, you will obviously want to avoid bringing any electric types, because Zekrom is actually doubly resistant to electric type attacks. They're basically going to tickle this raid boss, and they're not going to do any damage, so avoid bringing any Pokemon with electric type attacks. They're going to be extremely ineffective. Now, when it comes to this Pokemon's other resistances, they of course include types like fire types, flying types, grass types, water types, and steel types. Those are all going to be ineffective as well, but not as much as electric types. Now when it comes to perfect IVs for Zekrom, which I really do think you need to go after, you're going to want to look for one that is 2307, and if it's weather boosted, which is going to be with rainy weather and windy weather, it's going to be 2884. Those are the magic numbers, so make sure you write them down when you raid Zekrom. You will definitely want to get a 100% IV of this Pokemon. It's incredibly powerful. Now, if you want to secure the win against Zekrom with the least number of trainers as possible, it's definitely doable with a raid lobby consisting of 5 trainers that are at least level 30 with all their Pokemon level 30. And then of course, if you want to challenge yourself, you can duo Zekrom, but you will need the absolute best counters, and you and your Pokemon need to be capped out in terms of levels. Now, speaking of counters, let's go over those right now, because this is definitely something that I think a lot of players may not be aware of, but one Pokemon in particular is the direct counter to Zekrom, and you have to set it up a very specific way. Now, first and foremost, with Mega Evolutions, there's going to be 2 really solid options. There is, of course, Mega Rayquaza. On top of it being the absolute best Dragon-type raid attacker in the game, it is also one of the best Pokemon in the game, so it is definitely your top choice. But the other really good option is actually going to be Mega Garchomp, even more so than Primal Groudon. The reason for that is specifically because, like I said, there is a particular Pokemon that is the direct counter to Zekrom, and that Pokemon happens to be none other than Garchomp. And the reason for that is because of the ground typing that this Pokemon has. So Mega Garchomp could actually be a great option, mainly because it's going to be resistant against most of Zekrom's attacks, but also dish out just an incredible amount of damage. Now, when it comes to other counters you should consider, of course, Eternatus is one of the best Pokemon in the game, and it does have a lot of very powerful Dragon-type attacks. That's going to be a very solid option against Zekrom. And then, of course, Shadow Garchomp is going to be another top attacker, and that also includes Shadow Groudon. Now, when it comes to Shadow Garchomp, you will actually want to go with both a Dragon-type Fast Attack and Dragon-type Charge Attack. Don't necessarily go with Ground-type attacks. I mean, they're still going to be really good, but you're going to potentially deal a lot more damage with Dragon-type attacks. So do keep that in mind. And yes, that also applies to the Mega Evolution. But when it comes to using Shadow Groudon, obviously you will want to go with Ground-type attacks. Now, of course, let's say you are lacking in any of these legendary Pokemon or shadow Pokemon, you could also go with regular Garchomp because, like I said, that is going to be the secret weapon Pokemon up against this raid boss. So if you have a whole bunch of Garchomps, set them up with Dragon-type attacks and bring them against this raid boss, and you're going to be extremely effective. Alright, so like I said, this is a very easy raid boss as long as you have the right counters, and the secret weapon, like I said, is going to be Garchomp, considering that it is a Dragon-type Pokemon with really powerful Dragon-type moves, and it also has the ground typing, which will give it a lot of resistances against some of Zekrom's attacks. This is the primary counter for this particular raid boss. Now, I did mention that Zekrom is a bit of an important raid boss, specifically because it is a very powerful Pokemon, but I also think those fusion forms are just incredibly important because when it comes to Black Kyurem and White Kyurem, I feel like they're some of the most useful Pokemon in the game, not just because of their power in raid battles and PvP and all sorts of content where you would be battling, but specifically their adventure effects. Black Kyurem and White Kyurem come with various adventure effects, which will allow you to catch Pokemon more easily. So when it comes to like legendary raid bosses, or even let's say like the Galarian legendary birds that you encounter through the daily adventure incense, if you were to use the adventure effects for both White Kyurem or Black Kyurem, you're gonna have a much easier time, and that is definitely something you will want to understand. Now, the one thing though is that, of course, Zekrom energy, or I should say Zekrom candies, do not contribute to the adventure effect, nor does it contribute to the fusion. So really, if you're going to be farming up this Pokemon for the remainder of the year, it's mainly to collect Zekrom candies and potentially get yourself a 100% IV. If you were to get yourself a 100% IV, however, that is still going to be one of the best electric types you could use. So that is very important because I think a lot of players tend to look at Zekrom and only think of it as a component for a fusion form, but I think this is still one of the best Pokemon in the game, and you should try to go for a 100% IV if you can. Of course, there's going to be better electric types when it comes to top electric counters. Like, for example, I know a lot of players tend to focus in on that one Ultra Beast, I always forget its name, but Xurkitree. Yeah, people tend to focus in on Xurkitree mainly because it's kind of like Kartana. It's like a very huge glass cannon when it comes to electric types, and then of course most recently with Regieleki getting a particular charge attack, making it a top tier electric type raid attacker. But Zekrom has always been consistent, and in some cases the dual typing of electric and dragon, that could actually work to your benefit. So yeah, Zekrom is a very powerful Pokemon, and you should try to get yourself a 100% IV, and it's definitely worth powering up. So that's pretty much all I have to say. Yeah, enjoy these raids before the year end. I think Zekrom is a really good choice. And of course, we did recently get Reshiram as well, and for much of the same reasons, it's also very powerful and also very useful. But yeah, it's gonna be an interesting time. So, especially because in January, there's not really that many great options for raid bosses, so yeah. In any case, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know your thoughts regarding Zekrom's return down below. Are you going to be raiding for Zekrom, or are you going to be skipping out on the raiding content until next year? Definitely share your thoughts and all of your reasons for thinking that down below in the comments, and let's have a great discussion. And thank you so much for making it all the way to the end of this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure you hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe so that you know exactly when I upload videos. It's all gonna be really good for you. I'm gonna try to release a lot more videos in 2026. It's kind of weird right now with the YouTube algorithm. It's like they're doing a lot of things like checking for AI, and of course during the month of December, the viewership tends to be really low, so definitely help me out. If you could subscribe, that would be really great, and of course, don't forget the notification bell as well, so you know exactly when I upload videos. And also check out the links in the description below. There's a lot of really cool things that I'm up to, especially when it comes to my Patreon, and of course I also have an Etsy store, all that good stuff, so yeah, definitely go and check it out. But in any case, that's going to be it for this video. I'm Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, love yourself today, and I'll catch you in the next one.